Greetings, quiet warriors. There are 5 questions you must learn to stop answering, because every time you answer them, you lose something. Not loudly. Not immediately. But quietly, permanently. These questions don't sound dangerous. They don't feel like traps. They sound like normal conversation. Like trust. Like connection. And that's exactly why they work. Stay with me for the next few minutes and I'll show you the 5 questions that slowly give other people control over your time, your decisions, your reputation, and your peace of mind. And the 5th one, the last one, is the reason the other 4 even work in the first place. If you learn to recognize just that one, everything changes. And before we go deeper, do something simple. If you're the kind of person who wants more control over your life, not less, just tap subscribe right now. You don't have to think about it. Just do it. Because everything I share here is designed to make you harder to manipulate, harder to pressure, and harder to read. Now listen carefully. This is not about becoming cold. This is not about distrusting everyone around you. This is about awareness. Because most people are not controlled by force, they are controlled by conversation. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But what he didn't say is that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not answer at all. You've been trained your whole life to respond when someone asks you something. Teacher ask, you answer. Parent ask, you answer. Authority ask, you comply. And that conditioning didn't make you powerful, it made you predictable. Power begins the moment you realize not every question deserves your answer. Right now, you probably answer automatically. No pause. No filter. No space. But by the end of this, that space will exist. And once it does, no one will be able to take it from you again. Let's begin. The first question you must stop answering happens to you more often than you realize. At work. At home. With friends. Even with people you trust. Someone does something that affects you. They make a decision without asking you. They commit your time. They cross a boundary. They move things around without your input. And only after it's already done, they turn to you and say, "You're okay with that, right?" Or, "You don't mind, do you?" Listen carefully. That is not a question. That is a decision disguised as a question. Because the action already happened. The choice has already been made. They're not asking for permission, they're asking for approval after the fact. And the way it's framed traps you. Because the expected answer is yes. They want you to say, "No, I don't mind." Anything else makes you look difficult. Emotional. Uncooperative. So what do most people do? They swallow it. They smile. They say, "It's fine." Even when it's not. And in that moment something small but important happens. You teach that person, they can act first, and get your agreement later. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." But most people are not free in conversations like this, because they are afraid of social discomfort. Think about it. How many times has someone decided something for you, and then asked in a way that made it hard to say no? Someone volunteered your time. Someone spoke on your behalf. Someone crossed a line. And then they softened it with, "You don't mind, right?" That softness is not kindness. It's pressure wrapped in politeness. And every time you say, "It's fine," you sign off on behavior you never agreed to. You raise the limit of what they think they can get away with. Next time, it's bigger. Next time, it costs you more. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it, if it is not true, do not say it. But here's the problem. Most people say yes when it's not true, just to avoid tension. So what should you do instead? Not anger. Not aggression. Just clarity. When someone says, "You don't mind, right?" You slow down. You create that space. And you respond with something simple. "I would have preferred if you asked me first." That's it. No drama. No emotion. Just truth. And watch what happens. People who are used to moving around you start checking with you. People who are used to deciding for you start consulting you. Because your yes stopped being automatic. That's the shift. And once you feel that shift, you won't want to go back. That's the first question. The one that takes your agreement without ever asking for it. But the second question is more dangerous. Because this one doesn't come after the action. It comes before it. And it makes you lower your guard before anything even happens. You've heard it before. You've answered it before. Every single time. And you didn't even realize what you gave away. Let's go into that. The second question you must stop answering sounds harmless, even respectful. Someone looks at you and says, "Can I be honest with you?" And almost automatically, you say yes. Of course you do. Because what kind of person refuses honesty? What kind of person says no to truth? So you agree. Every time. Without thinking. And in that moment, you've done something most people never notice. You've given someone permission to say whatever they want, while hiding behind one word, honesty. But let's slow this down. Think about the last time someone asked you that. "Can I be honest with you?" What came next? Was it something that strengthened you? Or something that made you doubt yourself? "I don't think this is going to work. I don't think you're ready. I'm not sure you're making the right move." And because they framed it as honesty, you're not allowed to react. You can't push back. You can't question it. Because now, you're the one who can't handle the truth. Do you see the setup? The frame was built before the words even landed. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But what he understood, is that most reactions are controlled before the moment even begins. That question, "Can I be honest with you?" is the setup. It lowers your defenses. It positions them as courageous, and you as the receiver. And once you say yes, anything that follows feels justified. But here's what most people miss. People who genuinely care about you, don't need permission to be honest. They don't prepare you for it. They don't soften the ground before they speak. They just say it with respect. Without turning it into a performance. Without needing your approval first. So why do some people ask? Because they know, what they're about to say won't feel like support. And they need your agreement before you hear it. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this question plants imagination. Doubt. Hesitation. Second-guessing. All under the label of truth. So what do you do instead? Simple. You don't automatically accept the frame. Next time someone says, "Can I be honest with you?" Pause. Let that silence exist. And say something that shifts control back to you. Depends on what you mean. Or, you can say whatever you want. I'll decide what I take from it. Watch their reaction. Most people hesitate. They stumble. Because the entire strategy depended on you saying yes without thinking. And once you don't, the shield disappears. Now it's just their words. No protection. No disguise. just an opinion. And suddenly, it doesn't hit the same way. That's the second question. The one that lowers your guard before the strike. 2 questions in, and already, if you're paying attention, something is shifting. You're starting to hear conversations differently. You're starting to notice what's being taken. Not just what's being said. Most people never reach this point. They go through life responding automatically, never realizing the patterns. But you see it now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now the third question is different. The first 2 took something from you immediately. Your agreement. Your guard. This one is slower and heavier. Because it doesn't take anything at the moment. It gives you something you were never supposed to carry. And once you take it, it stays with you. Sometimes for a long time. Here it is. Someone comes to you. A friend. A colleague. Someone close. They explain a situation. A problem. A decision. A crossroads. And then they look at you and ask, "What would you do if you were me?" And it feels good. Let's be honest. It feels like respect. It feels like they trust your judgment. Like your opinion matters. So you lean in. You think carefully. You weigh the options. And you give them your answer. You tell them what you would do. But here's what actually just happened. They had a decision to make. A real decision with real consequences. And instead of carrying all of that weight themselves, they handed part of it to you. And you accepted it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But the moment you start deciding for someone else, you step into events you cannot control. Because now your name is attached to their outcome. If it works, they take the credit. They made the right move. Your voice disappears. But if it fails, your words come back. You told me to do this. You said this was the right choice. Even if they don't say it out loud, you feel it. That weight. That quiet blame. Because your fingerprints are on a decision that was never yours. And sometimes they already knew what they wanted to do. They weren't asking for direction. They were asking for backup. A name they could attach to the decision, just in case it went wrong. And without realizing it, you volunteered. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But this is not improvement. This is transfer. Responsibility being moved from one person to another. So what do you do instead? You don't take the decision. You give it back. Gently. Calmly. You say, "What are you leaning toward?" Or, "It sounds like you already know what you want to do." And then you listen. You guide without owning it. You support without carrying it. Because the moment you stop making decisions for other people, you stop carrying consequences that were never yours. That's the third question. The one that makes you responsible, without giving you control. 3 questions. 3 patterns. And if you're still here listening, you're already ahead of most people. But now we go deeper. Because the 4th question doesn't just affect you. It turns you into a weapon against someone else. And most people don't realize it until the damage is already done. Let's go into that. The 4th question you must never answer is the one that changes the direction of a conversation, without you even noticing it happen. You confront someone. You bring something up. Something you saw. Something you heard. Something you know. Maybe they lied. Maybe they moved behind your back. Maybe they did something that doesn't align with what they claim. And instead of addressing what you just said, they look at you and ask one simple question. Who told you that? And just like that, everything shifts. You were talking about what they did. Now you're talking about how you found out. The focus moves. The pressure moves. The responsibility moves. And if you answer, you lose twice. First, you betray the person who trusted you with that information. Second, you give the person you're confronting a target. Because now, they don't have to deal with what they did. They can go after the source. Discredit them. Cut them off. Silence them. And once that source is gone, so is your access to truth. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. But in moments like this, people aren't afraid of looking foolish. They're afraid of the tension. So they answer. They explain. They justify. And without realizing it, they help the other person escape accountability. Think about it. How many times has this happened? You brought something real to the table. And instead of addressing it, the conversation turned into, how did you hear that? Where did that come from? Why were you even looking into that? And suddenly you're defending yourself. Explaining yourself. While the person who actually did something wrong sits back, watching you do the work for them. That's not an accident. That's strategy. Seneca said, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. But your mind cannot stay unconquered. If your attention is constantly being redirected. This question is redirection. It pulls you away from truth and into defense. So what do you do instead? You refuse the shift completely. When someone asks, who told you that? You don't give a name. Not vaguely. Not indirectly. Not at all. You bring it back. It doesn't matter how I found out. Or, that's not the point. And then you return to the original issue. What matters is whether it's true. Now watch carefully. When you do this, they have nowhere to go, no escape. No distraction. They either address it, or they expose themselves by avoiding it. And either way you stay in control. You protect your source. You protect your position. And more importantly, you protect your access to truth. Because the moment people realize you don't expose your sources, they trust you more. They speak to you more. They tell you things others don't hear. And that changes your awareness completely. That's the fourth question. The one that tries to make you destroy your own advantage, with your own words. 4 questions. 4 patterns. Each one takes something different. Your agreement. Your guard. Your responsibility. Your access to truth. But all of them, all 4, depend on one thing. One final question. The 5th question. The one that removes your ability to resist every other one. This is the one that matters most. Because it doesn't just take something from you. It removes the space that protects you. It kills the pause. And once that pause is gone, everything else becomes automatic again. Here it is. Someone looks at you, calmly, directly, and says, "You trust me, right?" And feel that for a second. Feel how your body reacts to that. Because saying no feels wrong. It feels like an accusation. It feels like you're calling them dishonest. Like you're the problem. Like you're the one damaging the relationship. So what do? You say yes. Of course I trust you. And in that moment, you open every door at once. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But in moments like this, your words dye your position. Because once you say you trust them, you lose the ability to question them without contradicting yourself. Now think about what happens next. They make a decision without asking you and they ask. You don't mind, right? You hesitate, but you agreed you trust them. They say something that shakes your confidence and say, "Can I be honest with you?" You stand there and take it, because you trust them. They ask for your advice and things go wrong, then they say, "You told me to do this." And you carry it, because you trust them. They get caught and ask, "Who told you that?" And you feel the pull, because you trust them. Do you see it now? That one word, that one yes, becomes a contract. A silent agreement that limits your ability to respond freely. Seneca said, "Trust, like the soul, never returns once it is gone." But here's the truth most people never hear. Real trust is never requested. It is observed. Built slowly. Proven over time. The people who truly deserve your trust don't ask for it, because their actions already show it. So when someone asks, "You trust me, right?" you don't say yes. You don't say no. You step out of the trap completely. You say something simple. "I pay attention to what people do." Or, "Trust is shown over time." That's it. Calm. Neutral. Unmovable. And watch what happens. The person who genuinely deserves your trust will respect that. They won't push. They won't pressure. Because they don't need the words. But the person who needed that yes, the one whose next move depended on it, they will push harder. They'll get uncomfortable. They'll try again. And in that reaction, you'll see everything you need to see. That's the fifth question. The master question. The one that makes all the others possible. And once you stop answering it, everything else starts to lose its power. 5 questions. 5 patterns. And now you hear them. You feel them. You recognize them. But this is where most people stop. They understand it but they don't apply it. And nothing changes. So let's bring this back to your life. Think carefully. Who around you acts first and asks later? Who uses honesty right before they plant doubt? Who keeps asking for your advice, but somehow you carry the weight when things go wrong? Who redirects conversations instead of taking responsibility? And who keeps asking for your trust instead of showing it? Answer that honestly. Not out loud. Just to yourself. Because those answers will show you exactly where your energy has been going. And why. Now here's the shift. From this point forward, you don't react the same way. You don't answer immediately. You don't fill the silence. You don't give things away just because someone asked in the right tone. You pause. Even if it's just for a second. And in that second, you decide. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that mastery begins in that pause. That small space between the question and your answer. Because in that space, you either give your power away or you keep it. And most people never build that space. They spend their entire lives responding automatically. Agreeing when they should be thinking. Explaining when they should be silent. Giving when they should be choosing. And they wonder why they feel drained. Why they feel used. Why they feel like they're always in positions they didn't choose. It's not random. It's patterned. And it happens in conversations like this, every single day. But now you hear it. Now when someone says, "You don't mind, right?" You feel the pressure and you don't sign. Now when someone says, "Can I be honest with you?" You hear the setup before the words arrive. Now when someone asks, "What would you do if you were me?" You feel the weight and you let it pass. Now when someone says, "Who told you that?" You hold your ground and protect what matters. And now, when someone says, "You trust me, right?" You don't reach for the pen. You don't sign the blank check. You stay still. And that stillness changes everything. Because people feel it. They won't be able to explain it. But they'll feel it. You'll seem the same. But harder to move. Harder to pressure. Harder to read. Like someone whose yes actually means something now. And that changes how people treat you. Not because you demanded respect. But because you stopped giving it away automatically. One question at a time. Now before you leave. If something in you just clicked, don't ignore that. Go down to the comments and type, "I choose my answers." I want to see who's actually applying this, not just listening. And if you made it this far, you already know this isn't surface level content. So subscribe to Stoic Quiet Strength right now. Because this is where you learn how to think, not just react. And one more thing. Don't stop here. There's a full playlist waiting for you in the description, designed to sharpen this awareness even further. Watch the next video in that playlist. Not later, now. Because the more you train this, the more natural it becomes. And once it becomes natural, no one can move you without your permission. I'll see you there.